Out of the 3 fights adapted from the manga, I personally believe this one was done the best all around. What's up guys, welcome to my Ragnarok anime fight free review, breakdown, cut content, explanation video thingy for the battle between Sasaki Kojiro, history's greatest loser, and the god of gods Poseidon. Hope you enjoy. Sasaki's initial introduction was done well. Him revealing that his current form is his golden age was pretty hype and badass all around, and the slow motion save of the milk was pretty good. The 2 walkouts were fine, can't really complain about much, not considering the broader issues of the whole anime, like the slow animation, the still frames and everything like that. Walkouts just fine all around. Also feel that side characters spectating on Sasaki's side were done the best out of the other 3 fights in the anime. The Chad Miyamoto having his great moments which were done pretty well, and just all the side characters were portrayed better and weren't as jarring in the anime version of this fight. I've been covering Ragnarok as a series now for over a year, so make sure to subscribe if you enjoy chapter reviews, what if battles, explain videos, and much more to come. Poseidon's backstory of killing another god, his older brother Adamas, featured everything from the manga, and as a whole they adapted everything from this fight in the anime, apart from maybe a few minor dialogues from some random characters, but as a whole it's like 99% of the adaptation, which in my opinion wasn't the best idea pacing wise, with so many cuts from the fight to spectators throughout the whole anime, whether it be someone in, the human side spectating to give information about their character, whether it be another god to explain ability, whether it just be a reaction of another god, another character, back to Brynhilde and Goal so many times, became way too jarring and in my opinion was the biggest issue apart from the slow animation in the whole anime. But back to Poseidon's backstory. For some reason I didn't think Adamas would be green, but it's fine, but man does look quite ugly. Another thing that looked a bit off about Poseidon throughout the whole fight was his eyes. I know he's meant to never really look at anyone, but it just seemed weird to me in the anime. It felt less in your face in the manga, maybe because you can really see his eyes properly, and just more badass all around. But my man just looked like an idiot throughout the anime when he was just looking at random locations and doing his stupid whistle at times. So yeah, that was one issue I felt, and I kinda completely forgot about Poseidon whistling. So when he started whistling in the backstory and then at various points in the fight, it kinda caught me off guard. I'm like, why is this dude whistling? And I looked back at the manga fight again, like, oh yeah, my dude does actually whistle. So yeah, that's something I completely forgot about Poseidon's character. But in my opinion, the most well done thing in the whole anime was the backstories, and in particular Sasaki's. They covered everything and portrayed him in the intended way, and I won't lie, prior to the anime coming out, I didn't really like Sasaki's backstory, and it was personally one of my least favorite in the whole manga to this point, but the anime version had actually opened my eyes a bit to his backstory and made me respect it much more. In the whole anime, alongside the Zeus cucking Shiva scene, which I loved, I do think Sasaki's backstory was the best and handled the best, and honestly, I won't lie, I actually prefer the anime version of the backstory to the manga version, based on it just opening my eyes and making me respect Sasaki more as a character, and did have a few badass moments in his backstory, such as the old man unleashing his true power, showing Sasaki what he needs to overcome. So yeah, that was all cool. I really enjoyed everything from Sasaki's backstory to his various flashbacks to his fight with Miyamoto. Just everything about his backstory was handled quite well, and probably the highlight, or one of the highlights of the whole anime and this fight in particular. Now the part of this fight which was probably handled the worst, the soundtracks. The soundtracks for the backstories were decent, but some during the fight, especially the final scene where Sasaki was overcoming the gods, overcoming Poseidon with the final clash between the two. I don't know what was going on with that soundtrack, probably the wackest choice of soundtrack in the whole anime, next to, the PowerPoint presentation for Zeus and Adam with these, groaning, deep voice, punching sound effects, whatever you had with that. But yeah, the animation or the, portrayal of that final scene was better in this fight than the Adam fight, because it wasn't, a PowerPoint presentation. But still, they just ruined it with this kind of whack soundtrack. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but I personally didn't really like it. But now onto the fight itself. again had these various moments where the characters are just standing still. For example, we have Poseidon just, using his weapon, going everywhere. Sasaki standing still with this weird, 90s anime feel with like the background moving while the character isn't. It's going bang, bang, bang. That happened various points. It was better in this fight than what it was in the Adam fight. But as a whole, I think fight-wise, for the most part, the first fight had the best animation, but this fight here did seem a little bit faster, which made it, better to enjoy, but it did have those same still moments. Apart from those moments, it did have a few decent moments with Sasaki pulling out his sword and actually stopping various attacks that did look kinda cool, and Poseidon, speeding up at various points were decent as well. His ultimate moves looked a little bit goofy, but I'm guessing that is actually pretty hard to portray considering his after images are meant to create like a bubble around the character. I'm not really sure how many anime studios are going to really present that from, the manga to an anime. That's like something very hard in my opinion to adapt properly. So they did a okay job with that, I guess. The various points when Sasaki was, within the water to overcome Poseidon, going deeper and deeper until he finally hit the bottom to defeat him at the end. All those scenes were done fairly well. I can't really complain too much about them. They were adapted as I expected they would be. All the scenes of, Sasaki thinking within himself to overcome Poseidon, making a copy of Poseidon, going over every scenario, the various times he would have died in the fight if he would have gone with that route to attack him. Just all that, bits and pieces throughout the fight were done fairly decent. The final scene where he scanned all of creation once he hit the floor of, Poseidon's overwhelming strength to overcome him was done okay as well, with that, red wave aura thing going around everywhere as we saw, Poseidon power up, try to finish Sasaki, and Sasaki to destroy him at the end with that somewhat goofy final scene with that wacky soundtrack. Was done better than the climax of the Adam and Zeus fight, but I do think the climax of the Lubu and Thor fight was done better than that, but the climax of that is probably in the middle. And the final line, Sasaki going over how it does feel good to win for once, was done okay, but I wish they would have dragged that scene out longer in particular. They decided to drag out and make so many other scenes much longer than what they needed to be, while scenes where they could have made it longer, they cut it off quite short. All the stuff regarding the Valkyrie with Sasaki was okay. I did find it kinda cringy, her split personality thing. Like again, it was more prevalent in the anime due to the scenes being dragged out a lot longer. In the manga, this happened a few times, like, oh yeah, cool. It wasn't as in your face as it was in the anime, which was a little bit of a turn off. But yeah, the whole dynamic between the Valkyrie and Sasaki was handled quite well. Poseidon's, character, god amongst gods, the embodiment of a true god, was portrayed quite well. Again, his whole eye thing was a little bit of a turn off for those various parts before he actually looked Sasaki in the eyes. But yeah, that's pretty much everything for today's anime fight review. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe. As always, shout out to the people who support the channel via the Patreon. If you enjoy this type of video as well, make sure to check out the Patreon if you want various benefits while supporting the channel directly. But yep, that's it guys. Peace.